When I say you live inside of an echo chamber, I mean, your peers are about the same place as you are. So they're going to condone your current pricing, or your friends are going to say, oh, these products are really good. Of course, somebody would want the X, Y, and Z type of product. When really, if you got into a different group, the different group would say, oh, that is completely outdated. Here's what the new trend is. Here's how people are packaging that. Here's what people want. Or why are you selling all these things when you could just put all this together into one and sell this thing? And those become the radical new ideas because you take yourself outside of your echo chamber and put yourself into a brand new set of eyes and ideas.
Welcome, everybody, to the Chris Harder Show, where we are making you unapologetic about your pursuit of success, knowing that when good people like you make good money, they can then do great things. My name is Chris Harder, and several times per week, I will bring you epic guests, solo episodes, and every single tool, trick, and skill set you need to grow your business, grow your money mindset, and to grow your wealth to levels that you have never reached before. I've ended up in a unique place in life where I've got the experience, the connections, and all of the secrets that it takes to be successful. And I'm lifting the curtain to reveal it all to you in an effort to help put you in a position of abundance so great that you can then be as generous as possible. So let's lock arms and let's get started.
And we're back.
With another episode of He Said, She Said.
And we're literally back. So this is kind of cool. We aligned our trips really well. I and my brother, I should say my brother and I, if I spoke proper English, we took my mom on a 5-day road trip, which is a tradition that we do, except the tradition changed this year. And I'll explain that in a minute. Lori, you just got back from an awesome mastermind, and it's something you do twice a year with the same group. You want to describe kind of what the group is?
So this was something that Lindsay Zastro and I actually sat around one day and said, you know what? We really want women who are like even ahead of us, who inspire us, who we just like want to be around and in these rooms with this level of energy that we know they have. And we put together a list of names that were like, in a dream scenario, who do we think that we could get together to do this? And Lindsay and I wrote down these names and, asked these people one by one if they'd be willing to do it. And I remember we got our first yes. And that was it. We're like, okay, we can do this and we can do it together. And I think doing it together like that, you guys, was super powerful. If you're thinking of doing this, maybe grab one friend that you can start with, because honestly, it felt okay if we both got rejected. Like it just felt like, okay, that's fine. We're doing this anyway. So if you don't want to be a part of it, fine. So what we did is we put together this group and said, let's meet once a year. That's what it was to start. And it wasn't even let's meet once a year. We actually did it in the beginning with let's just try this first meetup so that nobody felt held to this. We said, let's meet for a weekend. Let's allow everyone to have a hot seat, which is when they get a dedicated hour to say something that they need, what they're working on, what they need help with, and get everybody's input from the group to do that. And so it just turned into now we're doing twice a year, and it's myself, Lindsay Zastro, it is Jen Gottlieb, it's Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, it's Jasmine Starr, it's Jamie Kern Lima, Amy Porterfield. And it is like the most incredible group of women. It's kind of mind blowing that this little idea that we're like, okay, let's play stupid idea time. Do we actually think we could do this? Is this possible? Are they going to even say yes? Came to be. And now I think this is like our 5th one that we've done.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some of the really cool breakthroughs that you guys have. You're going in your 3rd year of doing this, right? So it's a really cool example of like what happens when you get together. What kind of miracles can you create? So that was your trip. My trip is a variation of what has always been a tradition. So the past several years, Lori and I had a lake house that was 2,000 feet down the shore from Mom's lake house in Wisconsin. And so every summer since Dad died, we would go to the lake house for about 3 months in summer. So we could be close to Mom and she wasn't alone all summer. But going to the lake house, of course, is really fun. But it got to be too much. It was too much going back and forth. It's too much picking up our lives for 3 months. It seems really romantic on paper, but in execution, it's just a lot of work, especially when you add in like boats and, water toys and fun and maintenance and everything else. So we decided this year, we're like, you know what, let's just sell the lake house, because Mom wanted to sell her lake house. She's a 76-year-old widow and wanted to move to Scottsdale full time. And she didn't want to go back and forth anymore. And so when she brought it up, I know she thought that we were going to be like sad and we were like relieved, like, oh my God, no, we were only going there for you. But you weren't alone. So the whole point is I used to drive Mom every single spring back to Wisconsin because she would spend the winters in Scottsdale when she was going back and forth. And we would make a little road trip out of it, kind of a cool vacation so that we could make some memories, because I knew that one day those memories would be absolutely priceless. And sure enough, every time we take that road trip, we would have such valuable conversations that just wouldn't come up without that type of intention, without that type of space. Or going out to dinner each night, or stop in a hotel, go out to dinner. We'd have such incredible conversations. And I'd learn so much about my family and my background. And she'd help me with work or something that I was going through. And I didn't want that tradition to end. And of course, my brother, would drive her out to Arizona every single fall. And he didn't want that tradition to end. And so the variation of the tradition after we sold all the lake houses was, we got to keep this thing going. How about we do it together? So Nick and I loaded up the Sprinter van. Lori and I have one of these all pimped out Sprinter van things. We loaded up the Sprinter van and took Mom on a 5-day vacation all the way up the California coast and back. And it was everything I hoped it would be, and then some. And what came out of it was such valuable conversations, like I said, that wouldn't happen otherwise, where we're like, I had no idea about X, Y, and Z about our family or about our past. Or I didn't know you felt this way when this thing happened. Or I didn't know that we were building this story this whole time, thinking you wanted X when you really wanted, Z. And you can't replace what happens when you create a container. So in our case, that's the road trip. In Lori's case, that's getting together twice a year with these girls. So first you need the container. Then you need the intention behind it. We would ask very intentional questions instead of just letting conversation happen. Of course, there's plenty of letting conversation happen because you always have to leave room for the miracles. But we would ask very intentional questions such as, Mom, what is something that you think you know about us that might not be accurate at all? Or we'd say, Mom, what do you think is something we think about you that may not be accurate at all? Or we,
Gosh, that's awesome.
right? And it would spur such great conversations that would turn into stories. So, Lori, I want to ask you, what is something powerful that happened when you were on your trip with these women because you had the container and you had the intention of the exercises or the questions?
Okay, I'm so glad you asked it in that way, because I was just going to say, there's no way to get into these groups without making sure that you are prepared with an intention and with questions that you guys know you're going to ask each other. Or like I said, facilitate something where everybody gets that specific time to talk about a need, a desire, something that's up, something that that they really want to let go of. So I think having intentions for the group is really important. And I will say, when we first started, it was very, very business intended. Like, we would get there and it's like, we're going to work on, what's not working in our business, what is working. These are all the things we're going to be sharing. And you start to learn that as you meet more, it's very hard to talk about what's not working in the business when you can't also really talk about what's not working in life, like what's blocking you, what's something that continues to drain your energy, that you feel like if you were clear of this, you would maybe be able to get all of those creative ideas that you need in your business, or you're really struggling in something, whatever that is. So I think that, in this particular group, especially this last round, I did go in with the intention of some very specific things, because I feel pretty darn good in my life right now, which is so exciting to say. We have, all sorts of seasons. And if you guys have been listening to the seasons of this podcast, you know that I've had some rough seasons for the past few years. But with that said, I'm in a really good season. So I do feel like I can specifically focus on Glossy right now. And so my intention for this was to not only be there just to help other people and listen, but to come up with a new SKU for my company, and to just be really listening for anything that I can do to make my company win. And so with that intention, I find it so funny that, of course, it didn't come until the very final hour. I'm not even kidding you. It was like we were going to get on the road in only a couple hours. I ended up skipping my workout that morning and just sitting and having coffee with the ladies and sharing some things with them about what I thought about some different things that are coming. And I almost didn't share this thing that I'm like, this absolutely needs to be it, because I got some advice from some different people on my team and also in life who are like, I don't know if that's going to work. I'm not really sure. And I'm so glad that I threw out this wild idea because they were like, that is absolutely it. Like, are you kidding me? Like, of course, whenever I can have these insanely amazing women weigh in on my business, I'm going to listen and I'm going to take their advice. Like, if someone's exited for $1 billion, I think I'm going to be listening to that person. If there is one of the top doctors in the world right now, I think I'm going to listen. So I will say I'm so grateful to my past self who was scared shitless to ask these women to get together, because it's like my future self knew that I would need this kind of support. And you guys, I know some of you are listening and you're like, that must be nice for her to be able to do that. Yes, it is. I built my network, and I definitely spent time building myself, my network, going into masterminds, giving back, adding so much value so that when we asked, a lot of people did say yes. But when I first started this, I had a completely different group as well. And that served me for so long. It was one of the most powerful things that I did. And the women that I was in that group with were really kind of at my exact level and maybe ahead of me in certain areas, but I think I was also ahead of them in certain areas. So I highly recommend starting this now. And I promise you, you're going to be able to advance. You're going to be able to excel later on, but just start something that you need. So it could be, once a year, like we started with no expectations. Everybody goes in that if this isn't, something that you want to continue, we don't have to. But there is something, like Chris said, it's about the time spent. I don't even recommend doing this for one day. I mean, I do. I think that's great if you can only do one day, but there is something about 2 to 3 days. Like I said, it's like you really have to drop in with people, because the first day is almost like getting the cobwebs off of not seeing each other. Because if you're anything like us, like that social, comfort takes a little while, and you're not going to get to the really good stuff, the big breakthroughs, until day 2 and day 3. And maybe sometimes it'll be on meetup 2 or meetup 3 of those 2 or 3 day meetups. But you have to drop in and create intentional times where you're there for long periods of time, where you guys start to get all comfortable with each other, and you go in with intention and you share those intentions. You're gonna change your life. This is the secret to everything I have ever done. I can trace it back to sitting for long periods of time with people.
Yeah. I mean, there's actually a third component or ingredient, if you will. I mentioned the first two. The first one was the right container. That means the right size container and the right setting. And the container really has to be able to hold what it is you want to get out of this thing. So in my case, the container was the 5-day road trip, and it was the right setting, maybe cocktails at dinner, or maybe it was, the many hours on the road with the intentional questions. So the first ingredient in both these cases is the right type of container. The second ingredient is the right type of conversation starters, intentions, and questions. I'm sure that if you just left time for the miracles, some of them would happen, but not nearly as many, without accelerating it by having the right intentions and the right questions prepared. But then the third ingredient, as you were talking, that I realized was having the right people at the table. In my case, call it a family mastermind, this road trip. Mom and I alone have good conversations. Nick and Mom alone have good conversations. The three of us together had brand new conversations, right? Because the third person was there to add insight or say, wait, this is how I remember it. Or wait, you guys don't even know X, Y, and Z happened. And so in our family mastermind, if you will, having the right people at the table, all three of us, was what made it so special. In your case, having the right women at the table is what made it so special. You're each experts in different areas, and you each have different, I'm going to say what you said, like you're ahead in certain parts of life or business than the other person, and that person's ahead in certain parts of life or business than you are, and having that right mix of individuals. And I think the important point is you can go out and build this if you know the people. You can go out and build this if you have access to the right people, or you can speed it the heck up by going and joining these containers already built. And that's why we do our VIP weekend mastermind, so that you've got 2 days plus the big dinner out and all that stuff in our home with the right people sitting at the table, and Lori and I leading it with the right questions and intentions. I mean, this is what we do better than anybody else on the planet now at this point, because we do it for ourselves so much. And when we did the first VIP mastermind weekend at our house a few months ago, they freaked out because it's not an accident. It is a formula, right container, right intentions and questions, right facilitation, and the right people that are gathered. And when I say they freak out, I mean, at the end, they're like, can we do this again? And that's why we're doing another one. Half of them renewed. And it was them asking if they could do it again. So we picked a date and said, okay, well, we'll do it. And so now we're doing one in October.
I'm so excited about these. It was one of the most fun weekends that I feel like I get to do in my career. Although at this point, Chris, you and I just love putting masterminds on.
Yep.
It is our secret sauce because, like you said, this is what we do for ourselves over and over and over again. And it's no secret why they work. You are inviting other business people into the equation of your business. They're going to see blind spots that you do not see in your business. They're going to tell you things that they see in you that you don't see, like superpowers, where you should be leaning in, where your skill set should be at, who you should hire. What are you missing? Why don't you have this in your business? Why don't you have an opt-in? Why aren't you collecting, or why aren't you growing your email list in this way? Why aren't you showing up this way more on social? How can you show up more this way on social? Who do you need to help you build that? Like, is endless the ideas that you get from people who are doing business every day. But this is the difference of working on the business instead of in the business. You can't see from inside the bottle. You can't see the label. So you need to step out. People need to give you all of those ideas and see what hits and what lands. This isn't about people telling you what to do. This is literally about throwing all the ideas in the hat in the middle of the table. And we don't literally do that, but we
could. Should be fun.
We could. And then deciding to see what is a fit for your business. And really, I think some of the fun conversations that were at the last one that were pretty mind-blowing for people is they shared their pricing and everyone was like, what? Like, I would have thought you were priced at this. Why are you priced so low? This is insane.
Some of them started doing business together.
Some of them started doing business together. Some of them have already filled their next round with a higher price. Like, it's pretty crazy what happens. It's borrowing belief from other people. And you're not just like borrowing fake belief. It's like, no, this is what I'm charging. So you could be charging this too. Like, what makes, you any different from me? So I think it's being able to see what others are doing in their business. It just gives you this confidence that you didn't have before.
Yeah. On the pricing and product thing, here's what happens. We all live in an echo chamber unless we radically change who we're listening to. So that's like picking yourself up outside of your group of peers and friends and family and throwing yourself into a new one that you've never been a part of before. And if you don't do that, when I say you live inside of an echo chamber, I mean, your peers are about the same place as you are. So they're going to condone your current pricing, or your friends are going to say, oh, these products are really good. Of course, somebody would want the X, Y, and Z type of product. When really, if you got into a different group, the different group would say, oh, that is completely outdated. Here's what the new trend is. Here's how people are packaging that. Here's what people want. Or why are you selling all these things when you could just put all this together into one and sell this thing? And those become the radical new ideas because you take yourself outside of your echo chamber and put yourself into a brand new set of eyes and ideas.
Yeah. For example, I'm going way back to when I owned a gym and when my, current starting prices for my training were like $59 a session. And when I asked, my current clients how they felt about that, they're like, it's great, but it's a little high. And I'm like, oh, well, then I really can't charge more. Like, how am I ever going to afford, like my own space? And I remember talking to you about it, Chris, and I don't know, I can't remember if we talked to a few other people, but it was like this realization that these other trainers were charging like $129, $59, $200, which felt insane at the time. And I remember thinking, well, I can't charge that because my current customers are like, hell no, like I'm going to lose my current customers. And it was the realization of that's the whole point. I'm not saying like, oh, get out of here, people. I wasn't trying to force them away. But I am saying the only way for me to be able to charge more is to get a completely different customer. And so, when I started asking other people who had more money, a clientele that I wanted, the ones who, showed up for every training session, who really took it seriously. And this was the people who were spending more, because when you spend more, you do take it more seriously. And so it was this like moment of realizing I had to get out of the circle I was in to understand like, no, these other people are charging more and they are getting a completely different type of clientele, the type that I wanted.
At that time, your echo chamber was two things: your current clients saying,
Mhm.
well, this is what I'm comfortable paying.
Oh God. And then
Hold on, your
that.
peers,
oh,
the other trainers you knew were
Mhm.
pretty new trainers. So they were saying, oh my gosh, Lori, you're already doing so well. Well, listen, everybody meant well with their advice, but that was the wrong echo chamber giving you recycling current information instead of the information of what could be.
Mhm.
And that's why you have to pull yourself outside of your echo chamber and throw yourself into one of these events, whether you curate it yourself, like we started out by talking about, or whether you just go join the one that's curated for you. What we haven't even mentioned, there's two components too. It's the new ideas from the new echo chamber.
Oh yeah.
But once you have those ideas, you need exposure. And that's why with the VIP Weekend Mastermind, we sit down in our home podcast studio with you and we film both audio and video, a segment on our shows about you and your background and your business and your strengths so that tens and tens and tens and tens and tens and tens of thousands of people per episode can learn about you and hear about you that will never hear about you probably otherwise, at least not that quickly. And that's one of the things that we do at the VIP Weekend Mastermind. It's not just masterminding. It's getting interviewed by Lori and I and being dropped on both shows at the same time in these really cool shared episodes so that people can learn about you and what you're doing. And when you have that 1-2 punch, the new ideas, the new approach, and now the new exposure, that's why everybody pops off and says, oh my God, it's the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah. And if you're like, oh my gosh, that sounds, like a big, audacious, scary thing, but also excites you, you have time to prep for it. You send us questions. We make sure you're in your zone of genius. It's definitely something that you feel very prepped for. And I will say everyone who sat down was like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. And then they knocked it out of the park because Chris and I know how to be able to make you comfortable and make you feel like you are in a powerful place when you are on that podcast. And the other thing is that's so cool is that podcast episode gets shared out to each of our lists. So you also get to go to our email list, which is exciting. And when we were talking about the VIP weekend, at the end of the weekend, we were chatting with everyone and we had asked, what kind of pushed you over the edge to come to the weekend? And majority of them said the podcast, because they're like, we realize the value of the podcast alone is what
You on other big shows?
Yes. And so it's about using that 15 minutes of fame and making that on your one sheet, which is something that you create that you go and you pitch other podcasts with, or you pitch people to speak on their stages because they get to see a video of you in our podcast studio doing amazing. And that is like a calling card. That is like your way of getting more exposure, saying, okay, I can now pitch these maybe a little bit bigger shows than you would normally pitch because now you have this beautiful
street cred
podcast footage and you have street cred of being on
big
a
shows.
top 25 entrepreneurial podcast. So you have to realize that we have to use these moments in time. You have to prep for them. You want to show up, the way that you want to show up. And we promise you it's going to be amazing. And you're going to have this incredible footage that you can add to your media kit and that you can use.
Yeah. So listen, if you guys want to come, it's already half sold out. It's in mid-October. All the details are at chrisharder.me/weekend. And when you go to that site, you got two choices: grab a seat right away or send us a DM if you have any questions. We're happy to answer them. But seriously, go to chrisharder.me, that's .me, chrisharder.me/weekend. Again, chrisharder.me/weekend. All the details are there. The dates are there. It's only 10 businesses in our home. Hey, you know what my favorite part at the end was? When everyone broke out into a photo shoot on lunch breaks and at the end, because they're like, oh my God, like ocean views and this home and everything. And they broke out into their own photo shoots. I think we might have to add a photographer. That'd be a cool idea.
That would be fun.
And get some good pictures for somebody. Anyhow, all right, go to chrisharder.me/weekend and we will see you in mid-October.
We're so grateful for you guys. I hope we get to hang out. Until next time.
Adios.
Thanks for listening. And if you loved this episode and know of someone else who is as successful as they are generous, please pass them on to me. It would mean the world to me if you help me get this cause and this message out to as many listeners as I can. So please, if you liked what you heard, it goes a long way if you take 30 seconds and leave me a 5-star review and share this with your friends. I'll be forever grateful. And until the next episode, cheers to your success.